In 2025 alone, the FDA issued over 470 warning letters. Nearly one-third of the citations targeting laboratory and manufacturing lines pointed to a single systemic error: validation failures. Modern FDA inspectors have moved beyond confirming the existence of a signed protocol. They verify the first principles scientific logic that justifies those procedures. Proving the physics of the process is now mandatory. A completed binder is no longer a shield against citations. Welcome back to the Indian Pharmacist. Today, we are conducting a root cause analysis on an active regulatory failure to help you diagnose gaps in your own quality systems. Our case study is a recent FDA warning letter issued in February 2026 to a major cosmetic and pharmaceutical manufacturer. We are going to look specifically at Section 1, Equipment Suitability. By reverse engineering the citations in this document using a formal root cause analysis, we can expose exactly why their validation methodology crumbled under inspection. Surviving a modern FDA audit requires identifying these technical and cultural blind spots long before an investigator ever requests to see your data. To dissect these citations, we will map them onto a root cause analysis fishbone diagram. This breaks operational failures into 4 nodes: methods, personnel, materials, and external environment. The first citation originates in the methods branch, targeting their equipment qualification. The manufacturer attempted to use a bracketing strategy. In theory, bracketing allows you to test the extremes of a process, like a 100 milliliter fill and a 500 milliliter fill, to justify the production of every batch size in between. The problem is that they applied this bracket to entirely different commercial products. A 100 milliliter fill of a low viscosity liquid like water behaves differently than a high viscosity liquid, moving like honey through the exact same nozzle geometry. Testing pure volume is scientifically invalid if the mathematical models dictating the machine's operation do not account for these variations in fluid density and flow rate. This is a symptom of the template trap. A quality assurance team fills out a legacy bracketing protocol because it worked in previous years, failing to question the underlying physics of the new products running on the line. Applying a historical bracketing protocol without an explicit mathematical and engineering rationale is a gamble. It immediately voids the defensibility of the entire commercial run. Moving to the second root cause branch, we find a failure in personnel and culture that allowed this flawed methodology to proceed. During the initial qualification runs, the filling equipment outright failed its coefficient of variation, or CV, test. The machine could not demonstrate consistent fill weights. Instead of stopping to investigate, the manufacturer chose to ignore this failing data point and pushed the uncalibrated equipment directly into active commercial production. This reveals a direct internal conflict. As you can see on this timeline, the pressure to hit a commercial go-live date aggressively overtook the requirement to establish a firm data integrity date. Prioritizing speed over validation rigor incurs massive financial and regulatory liabilities. Pushing faulty data to market leads to line shutdowns and mandatory product recalls. The ultimate accountability for this node rests with executive leadership. They fostered an operational environment where production schedules possessed the authority to override failing quality metrics. To an FDA inspector, an ignored deviation of this magnitude is a primary indicator of systemic cultural rot. It suggests that if the firm will ignore failing machine data, all other facility data is likely untrustworthy. The investigation now transitions to the third root cause branch, materials, driven by specific citations surrounding the facility's cleaning protocols. The firm was cited for a practice known as cleaning validation shadowing. They executed their formal cleaning study on a piece of equipment that differed from the tank used in commercial production. Looking at these 3D wireframes of the 2 manufacturing tanks, you can see the physical discrepancies. The differing port locations and internal geometric shapes are highlighted here in red. These differences have direct fluid dynamics consequences. Altered internal geometry changes how residue builds up and how the cleaning fluid flows, causing the spray to miss the uniquely placed ports on the production tank. The FDA maintains a strict regulatory stance regarding material construction differences. If the interior surfaces, valves, and angles do not match, the qualification is void. Scientific justification requires exact physical parity. Attempting to validate a complex system by washing a simpler geometric analog is legally and scientifically indefensible. This brings us to the final branch of our failure analysis, the external environment, which focuses on contract manufacturing partnerships. U.S. law enforces a rigid legal reality. The owner of the new drug application, or NDA, is held entirely liable for any compliance failures at a partner facility. If your CMO fails an inspection, you receive the warning letter. Protecting your license requires aggressive, metric-driven external audits. Relying on a CMO's internal assurances is a liability. Their validation failures can lead directly to the revocation of your manufacturing license. Item 1 for your audit checklist: verify the raw scientific rationales for all sample sizes used in your CMO's bracketing strategies. Item 2. Mandate specific equipment matching. You must ensure that no unapproved shadowing occurs during their cleaning validations. Item 3. Scrutinize their raw qualification data, looking for ignored deviations or bypassed coefficient of variation tests. And Item 4. Assess the CMO's internal leadership culture to ensure their quality standards possess the authority to override commercial speed. Outsourcing manufacturing does not outsource regulatory risk. Rigorous external oversight is the only mechanism available to protect your core drug license. Pulling back to view the full scope of this systemic failure, we can see how the interconnected nodes of methods, personnel, materials, and the external environment collapsed simultaneously. This visual matrix contrasts the outdated legacy protocol mindset with the modern requirement for defensible science. Treating validation as a simple checkbox exercise is no longer a viable strategy. Modern FDA inspectors look for rigorous documentation of the scientific why. Executing the what is no longer sufficient to remain compliant. C-suite executives and quality assurance leadership bear the responsibility to actively remove the template trap within their own organizations. Your immediate action step is to proactively audit your current active validation processes against these 4 failure nodes before an inspector arrives at your facility. Compliance is a test of narrative defensibility. When an auditor walks onto your floor, you must be prepared to prove the safety of your drug through irrefutable first principles science.